I am Grady Collane in the CapeCod.com News Center, and welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by a special guest from the Cape and Islands United Way. Do you mind introducing yourself for our listeners?
Hey, I'm Mark Skala, the President and CEO of the Cape and Islands United Way, and happy to be here, Grady.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio this afternoon.
My pleasure. I love being in the studio.
Awesome. So we have a lot that we wanted to chat about today, from economics to the ongoing migrant crisis declared by state officials. So we want to start off with some of the more recent topics as of late, which is, of course, we'll start with the migrant stuff. Do you mind talking a little bit more about what you've been seeing, some comments, and how the United Way plays into this that we're seeing currently?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, we all know the migrant situation is a very political issue, and it's how we solve the migrant crisis, how we stop the issues at the border is way above my pay grade, as you and I both know. But we at the Cape and Islands United Way are always focused on the humanitarian piece of our work, and clearly there is a need. I'm not sure if our audience is aware, but there are 25 families currently living in the South Yarmouth facility, and that's about 70 people. Many of them are young children and moms. Several of the moms are currently pregnant. One of the moms is due to have twins. And then, of course, we have the about 63 families at the Joint Air Base,
Joint Base Cape
in
Cod.
Bourne, correct, and that's about 200 individuals in both of those location. So we're talking about a fair amount of people who are here with nothing but what they were wearing on their backs, and so there's definitely very much a need to address, and I know there's many issues going on at the legislature, how we can address it. I know we're running out of capacity here in Massachusetts, but I was fortunate to be on a call Monday with about 23 organizations on the Cape and South Shore, all of us trying to figure out how can we help these people. Some people are focused on getting them, first of all, they need to speak English, and then we need them to get a social security card. But to us, there's more basic things that they're lacking. They've come mostly from warm climates. They don't have clothes. They don't have boots. They don't have coats. They don't have basic hygiene things. So the perfect example, the United Way just provided a grant to a baby center in Hyannis. I don't know if you're familiar with a baby center, but it provides support from babies from about 0 to 4 years old. And they provide diapers, formula, clothing, all things that families here in need can go to and get resources there. We just provide a significant grant. An organization donated 16,000 diapers, and the only thing they needed was to ship those diapers, and so the United Way paid for the shipping and handling to get those diapers here, and those diapers will go to some of the migrant families, but they're also going to go to many of our own families here on the Cape who are struggling to make ends meet. I don't know if you're the shopper or grocery shopper in your house, Grady, but I am in mine, and we can see what impact just thinking about food for a minute, the staggering prices in the grocery store. It's no wonder so many people are struggling right now.
Right, it is a tough time to have all this happen. Of course, we've been seeing ongoing economic struggles across the nation with inflation, supply chain issues after the war between Russia and Ukraine. Does it seem like this probably couldn't have happened at a worse time, essentially? Or
I would say it probably is a really challenging time for the. So you're trying to meet the needs of your current residents and the challenges they're facing, and then you have it further exacerbated by, we're talking about 300 people coming to Cape Cod from a bus, and they don't know where they're going, and they don't speak the language. And I can tell you, working with a couple of folks at the Ezra Baker School in Dennis, where some of the children are going, they're eager to get to work. They're eager to change the trajectory of their life. So there's a lot of work to be done on that front.
Now, recently as well, 5th Barnstable District State Representative Stephen Exaros, he's looking for co-sponsors for a bill that would provide state reimbursements for the costs of some of these things: food, healthcare, housing, employment assistance. It's just in its most early stages.
Correct.
But what is, do you have comment on that sort of thing, of the taxing on the local towns?
Well, I think it is taxing to the local towns. Think about the children. There's 25 children in Yarmouth. They all need to go to school. And how are they going to get to school? They don't have transportation. So the Dennis Yarmouth has to think about all of those issues. How are we going to get them there? How much is that going to cost when they come here? How are we going to get them up to speed, because they're going to be behind? So yes, I do think there should be some sort of compensation to the towns who are opening their doors and saying, we want to help these people, but it takes resources.
Now, as well, just from your point of view, from the
Yep.
Cape and Islands United Way point of view, is this, do you have precedent for this kind of situation? Have you been helping out in humanitarian ways before, or is this a whole new uncharted waters for you guys?
Well, all of what we do is humanitarian work, whether it's education, health, affordable housing, financial stability. So it isn't new for us, but what is new for us is the demand. And when you aren't planning for that demand, it does have a drain on resources, not only for the Cape and Islands United Way, but every other organization that is there trying to support the efforts to make these people feel as welcome as possible and get them on the right path to citizenship.
You've spoken with some other organizations as well, you mentioned before.
Correct.
Can you relay some of the messages or just some anecdotes of what people have been saying in some other parts of the industry?
Well, I can tell you that some of the anecdotal information that I've received is how happy the people are. And how grateful they are. They're not demanding. They're so happy to be here, and they're grateful for the communities that are helping them. They're eager to get to work, and they're eager to make a living, and they want a better life. That's kind of the feedback that I've been getting from the different organizations. And on that call that I previously alluded to, there were, as I said, there were 22 agencies, and they ran from nonprofit agencies to state government agencies to Barnstable County agencies, all trying to figure out, and I don't think we have our arms around it, quite frankly, yet, because it's a big challenge. But I think collaboratively, and that's what the Cape and Islands United Way does, is bring collaborations together. So hopefully we can be working a little bit more closely to address that.
All right. As well, we recently had on Paul Ndzwicki, the CEO for the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, and we also discussed the migrant crisis as well. And he highlighted that we have a lot of open spaces in our workforce. So in a way, this kind of has that silver lining opportunity. Do you second that?
I absolutely do. There are many organizations, businesses that are struggling to find the help that they need. You can just see it. Won't mention the name of the bank, but I was just in the line at the bank, and they didn't have enough help, so it took longer than it should have. So yes, I do see that as a potential opportunity for us, that we can reinforce the workforce a little bit.
Now, I'm sorry, did you want to add some more?
No.
All right. We have a variety of topics I want to touch on, but
sure.
following through with workforce, basically, how was the summer? Do you have any kind of words about how this region's been handling the post-COVID economy? What are some of the major challenges that you're still seeing? Is it mostly the workforce? Are there other towns or friends you have in industries that have any words to relay here now?
I think some of the challenges we're seeing in the post-COVID is people getting back to where they were financially. There are definitely some challenges, and we've already talked about food, housing, the number one issue. So we're moving towards looking at some of those, and I think that they're continuing to be a challenge for us. One of the challenges clearly is we have 50% of our workforce that commutes off Cape. That doesn't make for a vibrant community because they're not as invested in that community when they're living elsewhere. And so it's a challenge for us and for everybody to address that issue. But I think the retailers did extremely well this year. I can tell you from a couple of events that we hosted and donations we received, the retail community was incredibly generous, and clearly they were feeling a good sense of how the economy went this summer, but that wasn't the case across the board.
It's very interesting you mentioned that same statistic about half of our workforce coming from off Cape. We also had discussed previously with Paul Nzwicki just the state of the bridges and affordable housing in general. The next topic I wanted to touch on was mostly that affordable housing. Recently, Joint Base Cape Cod had unveiled potential plans to utilize about 600 acres with mass development for affordable housing. Do you have any comment for initiatives like that? How is the state of affordable housing from your point of view?
Well, I would say it isn't very affordable. What do you classify as affordable? When I see somebody building a project and they need to only have 10 of 300 units affordable, we don't need more luxury housing. What we need is workforce housing. And so it all depends on what is determined affordable. Here on Cape Cod, you have to make, I read a statistic somewhere where a family grossing $200,000 a year is having trouble finding affordable housing. And that's a large salary. And again, I've seen a lot of development and a lot of progress being made towards creating more apartments and more housing. But typically, Grady, I'm finding them to be priced beyond what we really need here on Cape Cod.
In efforts, do you think things like Joint Base Cape Cod, does the state need to get more involved to help kind of address this issue? Are we just going to need intervention from even maybe the federal government or more state regulation or any other kind of outside assistance, essentially?
Well, I definitely think the state needs to be more actively participating in, not only for Cape Cod, but across the state, where there are housing is a barrier to economic prosperity. And I can tell you, the home I live in now, if I went to buy that house today, I couldn't afford to move into my neighborhood, Grady. And so that concerns me. And when I see that we have apartments that are going up and they're charging $3,000 a month and they're saying that's affordable, I mean, I have a problem with that, because it's not addressing what we need. We need that workforce coming back here and staying here, because then they participate in the community, they donate to nonprofits, they go to the events, and it changes the fabric of your community when so many are commuting off Cape. So I do think the state needs to step in. I think the opportunity to create something at the Joint Base up in Bourne, if it's truly affordable, is a right direction to go in. But what I continue to hear is, well, they're calling it affordable, but I gotta make so little money, or I make too much money. So there is no more middle class anymore, as I kind of see it.
Now, we already also have these two very large elephants in the room with the Bourne and Sagamore Bridges, also tied into this because of our so many people commuting every day.
Correct.
Recently, a new congressional report from state lawmakers, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey, and Representative Bill Keating, filed a report. It compiles a lot of input from local stakeholders. I'm actually not sure if maybe you guys are a part of that. But basically, they say it'd be catastrophic if we don't get these bridges replaced soon. It's a $4 billion ask, but there's plans by the state to do one bridge at a time, starting starting with Sagamore, then the Bourne. Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce CEO Paul Nzwicki, he's our special guest here in name only, mentioned that the bridge for the Bourne Bridge is going to face some pretty severe maintenance soon. That could potentially shut it down for up to 6 months to a year, and that would be devastating, he says, for the local economy. How do these bridges play into the local commerce on Cape Cod? What's the United Way's opinion on all of this involving both the response from the community as well?
Well, I think they play a pivotal role in our economy, not only for our workforce, but for our visitors. If it's too difficult to get to Cape Cod, if you're waiting 2.5 hours to get over a bridge, it's going to change people's perspectives. They're going to go to another location, another beach community, because the challenge is too great to get to the Cape. So I do think it's critical that we address the bridge situation. I'm not sure I would call it what you referred to it there from the Senator Warren and Congressman Keating. I don't think it's as drastic as they are making it to be, but it is a critical solution to many of the challenges we're facing on the Cape. But again, you're bringing all these people. If we add another bridge and we're bringing the people here, we got to make it affordable for them to come here. What's the point of having the additional bridges if you still can't afford to live here?
Is there, this is a bit out of left field, but when it comes to the year-round community and focus like that, I had heard a lot of people have been moving out here during COVID because remote work. Is that, how do you think that's going to maybe change the tapestry of Cape Cod? Is that a pro, having them be able to remote in from, say, Truro, or is that something that puts too much of a strain? What is the opinion?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted that people are choosing to work remotely from the Cape, but what that does is that takes up the inventory that we previously had available. So people who might have been renting their properties have now decided, wait a minute, I can stay there 6 or 8 months out of the year and work remotely, so I don't need to rent that house anymore. So it does present some challenges in terms of availability and housing stock. And it's also skyrocketed real estate. A perfect example is I have a neighbor who was working in Boston, was told he was going to be working remotely, and he grew up on the Cape, and he bought a house sight unseen, paid an enormous amount of money for the house, and so, there were several people that I knew were bidding for the house who were year-round families, and they were priced out. And so that's also what it's done, is it does have that impact.
And this has been something else as well. We just saw statistics that We Need a Vacation, Airbnb, a lot of these short-term rental industries that have cropped up over the past few years. They had existed for a while, but COVID really seems to have ramped up how popular they are.
Absolutely.
How does your experience on Cape Cod and the local industry, are those new things to consider? Like, what is the response from people? Is that a threat? Is that an opportunity? Do you have a comment in those industries?
I think that it's an opportunity. I'll use a great example. One of my next door neighbors, young couple, they're teachers in China, and they purchased the home. And they're here 8-9 weeks for their vacation, and they go back to China, and then they have and so in order to maintain their home, they are using We Need a Vacation. And I will tell you, we've not had an issue with any of the visitors that have stayed at the house next to us. It has been, and they're a great couple, so I'm really happy for them that they're reinvesting that money back into their property. So I think there's some real value there.
It's interesting to note. So as well, I mean, the Cape Cod United Way is involved in so many things. We're talking about so many community challenges as of late. Do you mind highlighting some of the other initiatives that you have in the works for us over the next few months?
Sure. One of the things I'd really like to about that we've really put a focus on is mental health and wellness. I think with the world today, with everything that's going on in Israel and Gaza, it's just one thing after another that people are seeing. And so it's having an impact on people's mental wellness. So we definitely have focused some of our resources on addressing that. Perfect example is we fund a program through the Alzheimer's support group, and it's a respite care program. And there's a woman who participates in the program, and she said to me, her husband had Alzheimer's, and she said, I felt like we were on the Titanic, and this program was our Carpathia coming to save us. Again, small program, small funding, but the impact that it had on this woman and her several people, it gave them relief, and it gave them a sense of, okay, I can do this. Their husbands have ultimately died, these two women that I'm talking about, but they found each other through this respite care program, and they're complete opposites, and they've become the best of friends. And they become a support for everybody else. And so that, to me, is playing the long game. And again, there are so many mental health issues right now, and people need that help. You know, I'm fortunate enough that if I'm feeling a little anxious, I might be able to take a weekend away, or I might be able to feel better knowing I'm going on a vacation. But not everybody is in that position, and so your mental wellness is incredibly important to the overall vibrancy of our community. So we've been trying to address in several different areas, looking at that. In addition to, affordable housing, food security, but mental wellness is really one that has not been addressed as well as it should be.
Very interesting. We saw such an uptick in attention for mental awareness during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, nothing really screams, I might need to reevaluate my behavioral or mental health like being cooped up inside for months on end. It just seems like, do you think maybe we're playing a little bit of catch-up from certain industries when it comes to addressing mental health?
We are
providing?
Absolutely playing catch-up, Grady, because there is a stigma that goes along with, mental health issues, and we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go in addressing it's okay to say I'm not okay. And I think that the more we can get that message out to people, the better off our community is going to be, the better off our employees are going to be, the better off everything will be if we can try to address those issues.
Do you think having more resources around like that is, we were talking about Alzheimer's specifically in this case, but there's lots of other initiatives around as well. Does it make it more appealing to live on Cape, especially for younger families looking to start their own, bring up their own kids essentially? Do you think that's going to help out with that 50% of people commuting from off Cape issue that we're currently having?
Say that again?
Oh, just like if we have more mental health services.
Totally, absolutely. The more you have, the more you can support the well-being of your community, the stronger and more vibrant your community will be. And I think for families, we're making resources available to families. Another great thing that comes to mind is we had a young guy who he was 8 years old before he had a male role model in his life. And then he was, through programs we support with Big Brother, Big Sister, he found a big brother. And it has changed the trajectory of this young man's life to the point where when the big brother got married, who was there as his best man but his little brother, and so that boy said, I didn't have a role model, I didn't know where to go to, and it's changed my life. And that is mental wellness, and that's feeling good about yourself. And so you cannot underestimate what a small impact can make.
I'm sure we could do a whole Sunday Journal segment on mental health, unfortunately, just because there's so much to discuss, especially related to like Big Brothers. I know they have a long wait list for male role models.
Yes, they do.
Especially.
They do indeed. They made tremendous progress J.R. Mell and his team there are doing a terrific job. But yes, it's always a challenge is adult male role models.
Now, I wanted to, we have only so much time, unfortunately, but I also wanted to discuss as we get into November, it's Thanksgiving, we have Giving Tuesday.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the Cape and Islands United Way does around that time?
Absolutely. Well, this is actually one of our busy times of year. We do our annual appeal, and many of your readers, or your audience, will probably receive our appeal letters. And, that's probably been an area that's been the most challenging this year is the person who's typically donated $100 to $250, $300 to you. They don't have that right now because of the economic challenges. And I'm telling people $50 makes a difference. And so we have quite a few things going on around the holidays. As far as Giving Tuesday, we're partnering with Puritan Cape Cod again this year. And at every store at Puritan on Giving Tuesday, if you spend a certain amount, I think it's $100 or more, Puritan will be donating a coat to the Cape and Islands United Way, and we want to receive 100 coats that we can then. We did this last year, and it was a tremendous success. And Puritan and the Pens are doing that again for us this year on Giving Tuesday, which is always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And we'll probably work with a few other organizations. Last year, we worked with the Nantucket Interfaith Council because they had quite a few people who didn't have the resources for Thanksgiving. And so we helped provide much needed turkeys and things they might need. One thing I did want to mention, Grady, is what's really different about the Cape and Islands United Way from United Way, as you know, is a worldwide organization. But everything we raise here stays here. And the other thing most people don't realize is a lot of United Ways rely on a workplace campaign. So you work for a bank or you work for Kellogg's, you do a workplace campaign. The majority of United Ways, about 70% of their income comes from workplace campaigns. We have less than 10% of that coming from workforce campaigns for obvious reasons. We don't have the major industries here. So it's all through individual donations, sponsorships, and so that's how it makes it a little bit different from other United Ways.
Very interesting. It just goes to show the Cape has its own unique economy.
You got that right. It is unique, and everybody always says the Cape is so unique, and it really is unique because we have our own set of challenges. When you look at housing and you see how many are their second and third homes here on the Cape.
Now, as well, we're about coming up on time, but just speaking of some of the things that are different as we wind down from the summer season and even the second summer that people have been pushing for, we're entering into the colder months now.
Correct.
As we change over that, is there any kind of ways that you wanted to maybe talk to the community, ways that we need to change, modify, upcoming challenges that you're focused on as we get into the holidays? What does the winter mean for the Cape and Islands United Way?
Well, winter, again, because we're not working in direct service, we're collaborating with organizations. Winter does mean for us where we give out grants, and so it does mean opportunities for us to look at areas that might be falling behind. Last year and I'm hoping to secure it this year. So National Grid, if you're listening, last year National Grid gave us a $250,000 grant for fuel assistance, and it went a tremendous long way to help people with their fuel costs in the winter. So we're hoping to secure that again in December, so that what we did was we did 2 rounds of grants to probably 22 different agencies who are providing fuel assistance.
That is wonderful and excellent to know. It'll be something to keep an eye out for in the next coming weeks and months as we get a little bit colder. It's hard.
Yes.
Had the warm days so far,
Yeah.
but
I haven't had to turn the heat on yet. So
I'm hoping I can squeeze by until...
I'm waiting till November.
keep the costs down. All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to highlight for our listeners while I still have you about the Keep an Eyes on Your Way, where they can learn more or things as we see more issues with migrants or ongoing challenges like this?
Well, I would encourage people to log on to our website at capeandislandsuw.org to find out the impact that our donors are making. When we're talking about the Cape and Islands United Way, I'm talking about our donors and the difference they're making and the impact they're making, because we couldn't do any of it if it weren't for those donors who are supporting the initiatives that we're undertaking. So they can certainly find more at our website. Anybody could reach out to me at any time. Happy to have a conversation and be a part, share with them the impact we're making or that our donors are making.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Mark, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you, Grady. It's been a pleasure.
I'm Grady Collane in the CapeCod.com News Center, and this has been Sunday Journal.